Is a will you marry me in your future? Or maybe you do it all over again. Hi, I'm Brian Toon with Jewelry Design Center, inviting you to come see the largest selection of Will You Marry Me in the state of Montana. The brightest diamonds of every shape and size, unique settings built to last, and skilled jewelers on site offering free sizing and maintenance for life, because that's how long we want to be your jeweler. Jewelry Design Center in Missoula, on Brooks, across from the Montana Club.
Big Sky Breakdown, proudly presented by the Bobcat Collective at Montana State. The Bobcat Collective is the NIL collective that serves Montana State University student athletes. The collective is partnered with Montana State to connect fans, alumni, businesses, and local nonprofits with Montana State student athletes. Opportunities through the collective allow student athletes to earn compensation while serving the greater Montana State University community. Sign up now for memberships and enjoy automatic entry into raffles for free tickets while supporting the bright minds at Montana State. They have multiple different membership tiers, and you can also be a one-time supporter, and you can also business partner or corporate supporter. Visit bobcatcollective.com for more.
All right, excited for our last non-conference game. Felt like we made good progress last week in getting our first win, and we need to continue to make that progress as we close out the non-conference this week against Mercyhurst. Reflecting on that win, I think we continued to play defense at a pretty high level, in particular with the top group out there. Looking at the last two games, we've been really good on third down. We've hardly let up any chances in the red zone in the regulation of the two games. I think we've been fundamentally sound. We've tackled well. We've made the quarterbacks one-dimensional, I think, to a certain extent. So that's going to have to continue. I think we have a standard on defense that we want to continue to strive for, and I think we're making some steps towards that. I think offensively, that was a game where we knew we would have to throw it effectively, throw it efficiently, and we did that. I thought getting our run game going was a little slower than I would have liked, but I think ultimately we got that going, and the way our short passing game, our RPO game, and our run game are all going to complement each other. I think that starting to take shape on Saturdays. Justin's efficiency was very high, and he did bounce back from the one turnover very well with following up with a 2-minute drive. So, I think it was a step forward as a team. I think in the special team side of things, we only punted twice, so that certainly helped, but we had an edge as far as just that net punt side of things goes. The Taco got one good return in there. We still got a bunch of improvement to make, and we're not going to make it all in 1 week here, but another week, another opportunity to play a good opponent. I know we played Mercyhurst last year as a relative unknown. I think when they showed up, I think we felt like there was definitely talent on that team, and I think they've continued to take some strides there, as this is just their second year in the FCS. They've played 2 FCS teams in Youngstown, in Sac State, relatively tough. Held a lead into the second half against Sac State before that kind of got away from a lot of the same components as last year. Obviously, same head coach. He calls the defense, same offensive coordinator, same quarterback. But a continued, I think, a group that continues to get better as far as how they're playing on the field and how they look. And they're certainly going to be familiar with making the trip out here and playing in our stadium. So excited for them to get out here and excited for another opportunity that our guys will have. Good week of practice will have to be a part of it. And I think we've been able to stack a couple of those weeks up now, and I think our guys are getting into that routine that they need to be in, and how the weeks need to work and how the preparation needs to be at the forefront of our ability to play well on Saturdays. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
On Saturday, one off the ball more around the offensive line. Also, tackling the box. Anything else on film that you saw that maybe could be a slow start with the running game?
Yeah, well, I think San Diego's defense by nature and putting the extra hat up there, they're going to have that guy be the unblocked guy and that might be a 3-4 yard gain. So those plays here and there, you're going to have to be okay with. And then ultimately, Julius's touchdown was similar in the fact that the unblocked guy was right there, and we were able to, break out and have a big gain. In the midst of that, though, there was a few plays with communication, communicating so everybody's on the same page, I guess. And then, I think there was just a few things fundamentally that we didn't do well. And then it felt like, at least for Coach Smith, I think every time we did, get the ball out in the perimeter on an RPO, those were the plays we really blocked up well. I think that's the way it goes sometimes. We're a group that's gaining experience, working together. So that's where that communication piece needs to continue to improve. I think just fundamentally and really being able to strain and play with proper pad level. I think there's room for improvement there. Really pleased with how JT's played. Getting transition to center when he did. It was a week before the first game. He played a little bit during spring ball. So really been pleased with that. I think Titan continues to, show that he can play wherever we want to put him. He's done a good job at guard. And, the other three guys, we have 2 redshirt sophomores and a redshirt freshman that I think their capacity to continue to find a higher level, a more consistent level is just kind of where we're at. And you can throw our tight ends in there too. I think they're a key component to the run game as well, that their level of play needs to, continue to move in the right direction.
They were in there, and I think we blocked it for. What do you guys like about that?
Well, you get 2 tight ends out there. In some fashion, you're creating more gaps. In a team that wants to, again, stack it up with numbers, you're adding a number, I guess. And the whole component of it, I think, team that wants to bring edge pressure, your tight ends allow you to have a little bit more of a guarded edge towards that. You're not going to just an open side to a guard tackle side. So I think, the tight end piece to our run game, from a blocking perspective, is going to be there in a lot of different ways than how we can use them in the RPO game. We haven't done a lot yet, but I think that's certainly something that can be there as well. Yeah, that position group is critical to our success in the run game. I'm just glad we were able to target them a few more times in this game. And, that group of those 3 in particular, Schlepp, Providence, and Lencioni needs to continue to do what they can do to make their impact. Well, I think you certainly, that's a starting point. Again, that was an unknown team last year, by and large, and we'd had some games leading in, but they're much more known. You can look back at last year's game, and because of the continuity on the coaching staff, I think use that as a resource. I think you can clearly see that they're a program that's getting better. No doubt about that. And also I think the fact that we played them, they've had these games. I think our level of respect for what they're becoming, I think has to be there. It can't just be about last year's games. I think this year's games got to show they're an emerging program that, again, I felt like last year, as far as just pure talent, I mean, they were a team that you could see they got some guys, and it appears they have a few more guys this year. Well, I think it shows up in how we go about our business on a daily basis. And then I think on Saturday, what you want to see is guys just doing their job. Panic tends to have guys maybe do more than they need to. And I thought, in particular, how we played defense, it was a group of guys doing their job, which sometimes isn't, free a guy up to make a lot of plays, but it's freeing someone else. It's not allowing the big play. It's tackling well because we have proper leverage. So I think that's where reflected on game day. I think during the week though, it was a pretty business-like approach. And you see a team that I think still very much believes it can become more, as opposed to, the thought of what are we going to do now, and really being able to live in the moment of one opponent in one game is probably the most telling thing. We're 3 games into the season. We can't be concerned about anything beyond just the 4th game. Well, they've thrown the ball for a pretty good clip so far. I think their skill and who they're throwing the ball to are good players. The quarterback, crafty, athletic, tough player, and he's the same guy we saw last year. In the 2 losses, they haven't run it as well as I'm sure they would have wanted, because it appears to me they want to run the ball, but they've been able to find a way to move the ball in all 3 games. Youngstown, I thought they moved it kind of up and down. They didn't find ways to score. They were creative in some ways to score the football the other night against Sacramento State, and so they're a dangerous offense. A lot of elements to it. With an athletic quarterback, there's a run component that he has. There's a certain RPO piece that with the receivers they have down the field that can hurt you. So we want to make any and every team one-dimensional. So it starts with us being able to stop the run, but we also have to be able to defend the quarterback run, defend him getting out of pocket, and defend the RPO game too. So there's a wide-ranging amount of things we need to defend in this game, and they can do it. I think one way or the other. They've proven they've been able to throw the football these first couple games, and that's probably, relative to last year, I think a significant improvement. Yeah, I think they just look better for one. I know that they're a team that throws a lot at you, different fronts, different pressures, different coverages. So our ability to be able to be on the same page and communicate some of the things that we've that haven't been maybe awesome these first couple of games, we're going to have to be on our toes, and it's a good opponent to be able to see, to be able to test where we're at. I think, I don't know how good Youngstown is necessarily, but they gave Youngstown fits, and they gave Sacramento State fits for quite a while in that game on defense. So we're going to have to play well on that side of the ball, and ideally for us be able to be on the same page as much as we can, and be as consistent and efficient as we can. And that'll be the mark of success on Saturday. Our ability just to be, I think it's simple as, are we being efficient? Are we staying out of second and long? Are we, if our third downs becoming third mediums, those type of things. And if we can do that, I think we'll have the success we want.
Dane Steele's involved in the offense has been growing over the last 2 games. Just your thoughts on the strides he's made over the last few weeks and his involvement in the offense moving forward.
Yeah, Dane got opportunity with Chris Long being out to get more in the rotation, and he's made the most of his opportunities when the ball's been thrown to him. And then I think he's blocked really well, and that had been a strength of his. He's got a great wrestling background. He was a nationally ranked wrestler, so that comes with the territory of him being able to block. And we knew he'd have an impact on special teams. Offensively, he was going to be in that kind of 4th, 5th, 6th kind of role with Chris going out. That opportunity changed a little bit, and a guy like Dane, is ready to go, and he's taken advantage of that. We'll get Chris back eventually, but I think at least to this point, Dane's proven that he should be out there. He's very capable of helping our offense out. Yeah. It's critical. The more we're trying to get the ball on the perimeter into their hands, their ability to help one another is a big piece to it. And I think we felt like Ryan King was a really good blocker last year. Probably went unnoticed quite a bit, but that was he's a big, strong guy to contend with. So taking pride in that, and then the whole group I think is deserves credit. I know on Taco's first touchdown, it was really Taco stays on his feet, but it's Ryan and then Dane hustling in that allows him to finish that off. And we don't have a whole host of long runs quite yet, but ultimately those long runs are a lot of time because of those receivers just not quitting, hustling, playing to the whistle. So something we take great pride in, and I think those guys are doing a good job at this point. Well, I think developing different packages with those two on the field, because they're obviously both capable runners, but they're both capable blockers and they're both capable pass catchers. I think the more we can expand upon, a two tailback system, so to speak, meaning it might not, in one game, it might just be a couple plays, but over the course of 3, 4, 5 games, what does that look like? And to be able to put them in different positions, I think is the ideal. It just gives the defense obviously more to contend with, and that package of plays I would see just expanding over time. Mm-hmm. Well, I think in Jared and Colson, we are very deep at that position. I think at any given time, we've primarily played two guys regularly. And the way the first 2 games played out, we just played those 2 guys. But it was great for Jared and Colson to get some run and to get some opportunities, because you don't know when they're going to come up, and whether it's first quarter through the fourth quarter, when the ball is in running back's hands, it's the premium time for them to show what they can do. And so happy for Jared. That run was very impressive that he had. And given the nature of that position, we're gonna be playing with all those guys to some degree as time goes on. And we're healthy right now, which is great. But those opportunities again to get them in the game and see what they can do is really important. So I don't know that we'll expand much beyond regular time with those two, but I think both Jared and Colson are worthy of getting the ball in their hands. It's just there's only one ball out there.
Join Town Pump's Pump It Up Rewards Plus program and never pay full price for fuel again.
Save 5 cents on every gallon every day at any Town Pump across Montana.
Plus, earn and redeem points on your favorite in-store items to get free stuff with our clubs.
Stop in and pick up a rewards card. Download the Pump It Up Rewards Plus app today.
Or visit townpump.com/rewards to register and start saving.
Town Pump. Right down the road. Pump it up. Oh, yeah.
There's always a party in Montana, whether you're going to a wedding, a football game, a concert. Montana Party Bus can get you there safe and will take you anywhere in Montana. You can relax with friends in style, luxury, and safety. Western Montana based for local and regional travel within Montana borders. Montana Party Bus is great for both large and small groups with a capacity of up to 30 guests. If you want to elevate your event, call them anytime, 406-200-8096. You can also visit mtpartybus.com. Travel anywhere in Montana in style with the Montana Party Bus.
I think the best I could say is, Burke has been dressing. He's had a club on. I think by the week's end he'll be able to go without the club. So what that means, we'll have to see. That's probably the only real update. I know we didn't sustain anything out of the game, which is very positive. I would say Chris Long is maybe the one that's the closest to getting back, but way too early in this week to say whether that's going to happen for this particular game. Yeah. Yeah, it's to have a stretch now where he's played 3 consecutive games. That has not happened in a while. I think he played in 3 consecutive last year, but really being healthy and being part of the regular rotation, it didn't really happen last year. So you got to go back to the previous year. So I think he's showing good vision, good patience. He's had the ability, I would say, to have all types of runs to this point, whether that's inside, outside zone. and he's had a lot of success to this point. So real happy for him just to be back in the groove. And he and Adam are a little bit different stylistically. I know their opportunities in these 3 games have really varied. I think to Julius's credit, he's made most of his opportunities by and large, and the physical nature hasn't necessarily had to show up because he's seen things pretty clean. He's got out me wide open here and there, and hopefully we can keep doing that for him.
Coach, obviously everybody will not say going Bozeman this week, but knowing how you played this team last year, how do you in practice kind of make sure that everybody's not looking at you?
It's really that simple. We can't. I think you pop the film on and know that this is a dangerous team. It's a better, improved team from last year, and this is 4 years plus now for me, and we've prided ourselves in never getting a step ahead. And because of that, I think we've consistently shown up on Saturdays and made it about that opponent. So that's the expectation. I hope our guys don't even know who we play next. I know conference play starts next, and I know who we play, but I don't think they're even into who that is. So this effort this week has to be all about Mercyhurst, and more so just, okay, what do we need to do to get better? I think the more you can think that way and even less about the opponents, that you're preparing for an opponent, you're watching their film, you're going against their looks, but what can all our individuals do to get better? That's really got to be how we're dialed in. Yeah, it hasn't happened here during my time. It probably doesn't happen all too often. I think there's a sense of comfort in it. I guess you're not having to, get on a plane or a bus on a Friday and go someplace else. You're obviously, from a crowd perspective, the crowd is on your side and behind you. And that's certainly an advantage here in Bozeman. So I think for a young team that's growing up, I think it helps us. All that being said, we went to Oregon our first game, and that's where it started. So I think it's a positive thing, and we're trying to make the most of just the routine that we settle into through this month, and then we're gonna have to get on a plane again before we know it and go play someone else. But I think it's certainly helpful. Yeah. We really try hard to make that determination while they're still in high school. I never liked the thought that, we're going to recruit you as something and then, we see you as something else. If we see you as something, I want to be clear. I don't want that to be this disappointment that then would come about when someone gets here. If someone knows what they're getting themselves into and comes here and makes that choice, that's great. Now, it doesn't mean we haven't had a few position moves along the way. So, I think that when that comes into play is you recruit good football players, how they're going to grow and how they're going to develop. I think sometimes you think you have a pretty good thought of what that's going to look like, and sometimes it doesn't quite play out that way. So position moves from time to time can happen while they're here, but hopefully we have that figured out on the front end. In large part because we're trying to put a roster together that isn't endless. And we have a number of guys that we would like to have at each position. So if you have a bunch of guys that are going to be fluid, that doesn't add up real well, and you have some shortcomings at some positions just based on numbers. So making those projections isn't always foolproof. You want, like in Cole's case, you saw the size, the athleticism, and I think the intelligence that you feel like he can make that transition, but it takes some time. And I know in Cole's case, you got to be committed to that transition, and not think it has to happen too soon. I guess that's maybe just having a relative timeline, a plan for development. I think is always a piece to those decisions we make. Yeah. Well, I think yeah, absolutely. And you got to look and say a lot of high school programs are going to put their best player at quarterback, and whether that takes them away from defense entirely, like it did it with Cole, or someone's doubling up. I think that's just a piece to it. We want to recruit the best football players, and I think most of those guys that have played quarterback, or a good chunk of them, are from Montana, but they're not all, because Ty Okada would be one I know that was from out of state, and there's more than that. But so talk about good football players, so kids playing quarterback, and maybe here's why he's playing quarterback. I think the intelligence piece, the leadership piece, being able to perform under pressure, I think that comes with the territory of quarterback probably more than any other position at any level. So I think you flip that over to defense, and being able to be a decision maker, being able to communicate isn't something new to this kid that's played quarterback now. The language and what they're communicating is maybe different, but I think there's some elements that translate. It's it's that aspect for sure. But then how they're going to tackle. I think, okay, was that quarterback willing to be physical when he could be physical? I think that's something that's maybe left for chance a little bit, but there are a lot of things that do, I think, carry over. And going back to, hey, this is just generally speaking one of the best football players on any one of these teams. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we talk about multi-position, multi-sport. That really goes for just about any position. I know when you can see them on the other side of the ball, that is a real added value. And if they're not, okay, why aren't they? And some of it's just, coaches are going to be too platoon. They're just not going to do it. Some of it is they certainly want to protect a guy, protect a quarterback. But if a guy's capable of playing both sides and does it, it gives you that much more to look at. I think of running backs that play both ways. There's a lot to be said for that. Receivers, and seeing how competitive they are, and if they're getting a chance to play DB, what does that look like? And the same goes for defensive guys that are getting flipped over and playing at least some aspect of the offense. They might not be a regular offensive player, but when things are on the line, they're going to be out there. They're going to be returning kicks or whatever. So yes, the multi-position piece, while it might not be in a young man's control, if he's out there on both sides of the ball, it means a lot to us. Yeah. You look at the last sequence before the half and the first two drives, and doing it all kinds of ways. I thought, I may mention, I thought Justin just situationally, I think played a really good game. Didn't try to force things downfield. When we did have a few second and longs, we got ourselves into third and mediums. I know we picked up a couple fourth and shorts along the way. I think just continuing to find ourselves and knowing that, we can be a lot of things, I think is the biggest thing. We don't have to be so dependent on, running or passing. We can be balanced. If a team is going to take one thing away and make it harder, we can throw it. And ideally, the more we throw it, the more they think they have to take that away, and then that helps us run it. So, and I think just seeing Justin's growth, I think is through these 3 games, and really solidifying himself in that position has probably been as big as anything. And that was his first interception, going back to your point. So the way he bounced back, and I think certainly the way I think our guys are rallying around him right now is what you want. Yeah, we took a couple sacks in that game. One, they had us outnumbered. We got to communicate better there. I thought we handled the twist game, I think, better in that game than we had the first two. Again, that's a group coming together, and I mean, the communication aspect in those critical situations is a pretty huge component. But then also, if I'm a guard and tackle, what can these two guys do, and how can I combat what they can do? From a pressure perspective, I don't think Justin was maybe put in a lot of situations where he had to fix a protection, but he's dialed in on what our protections are and what our limitations are based on numbers. So I think there's been growth there for sure. And Mercyhurst, with all they do, is going to present a whole set of new challenges, and it'll be another opportunity for us to grow in that regard. Yeah, we just have to have a better answer. We let a free rusher to the A gap. That's not what we want. That's a direct line to the quarterback. We had a high snap on that play too, so it took Justin's eyes off it. So, they bring 6 to our 5. That's certainly what the defense can do. But where now is their weakness? What do we need to do to be able to combat that? The next time that scenario pops up,